Welcome back, everyone. We are here for our next session, and I'm excited for this session. It's going to be an excellent one. I'm here with Shannon, and it's Polito, right?
Yes, burrito.
I so Josephine with Latinos of 911, she was telling me, she goes, I always tell her I'm gonna say Polito. And
Burrito. Yes.
yeah. And Shannon's gonna be doing a session called Realistic Wellness for Dispatchers. Take it away, my friend.
All right. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This week has been incredible. I cannot wait to go back to the beginning and watch it from the start again. And there's so many good speakers. So thank you, Ricardo, for letting me be a part of this. And I am hopeful that I can be helpful to people today. So I don't know about you guys. So I guess, hold on. I'm Shannon Polito, or Polito, as Josephine likes to say. But so I run Help for the Headset, which is a wellness and training company for dispatchers, but I am still an active dispatcher. So I've been one for 16 years. So everything I'm talking about, trust me, I am talking about because I know, I get it. So to me, that's important because I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do without knowing what to do. So I'm hoping to impart anything that I have close to wisdom at this point. So I know that my focus has been wellness for a long time, which means I've gone to lots of different wellness training classes. And I have seen basically two big spectrums. One where they just kind of say, this job's going to kill you. Good luck. And they just send you out without any information. So you kind of walk out like, oh God, what did I do? Or they'll tell you, sleep 8 hours, eat really healthy, and exercise 6 times a week. And I know for almost any first responder, just being told to sleep 8 hours every week or every night, every week actually is probably more appropriate, but every night they just turn off. So it's not appropriate. It's not applicable to our job. So this session, it is a very abbreviated session. It's normally a 2-hour session. So I cut out a lot of our foundational stuff, but I make it specific to our job. And so I hope that this is something that will actually apply and actually be able to make some tweaks, some changes as we go along. So let me get started here. So number one, so I will generally talk a lot about stress cycles because that's a foundation. Again, our time is short. So I'm going to jump into our brains actually have a bunch of neurochemicals inside of it. So the stress cycles affect them, but we have natural ways of getting all the good stuff dumped into our bodies from our brains. And so I always let people know about your happy chemicals. We focus so much on the things that make us sad and upset in our chemical makeup, but there are some wonderful happy chemicals that we have in there. So just to start, you have endorphins, which we know that is, of course, you get that from exercise, but it relieves stress and actually blocks discomfort. It's a pain blocker. And you can get that with essential oils, watching a funny movie, eating dark chocolate, for those of you who like that, and then exercising. Dopamine, which we are going to talk about a couple more times in this session, it is a reward chemical. It is a very powerful chemical. It makes us feel really good. It's the same chemical that gets dumped into bodies when they use meth or heroin. So yay, we're going to talk about how we do that with other things in our body, but it's just that powerful. So I always mention that it's the same thing. But if you are a to-do list person, when you cross something off that list, you get a dopamine dump. It's delightful. So I always tell people, if you are just struggling, you're kind of meh, put on your list something real basic. Take a shower, take your shower, cross it off the list. You're going to get a dopamine dump. It's really nice. Your brain doesn't even care that you put it on the list just to cross it off the list. You can still get that dopamine dump. Doing self-care, working towards a goal gives you dopamine dump, and then food, which that's what we're going to talk about later. Oxytocin is the love chemical. It is something that we get dumped into our bodies that make us feel good when we play with a dog or a cat. So the actual act of petting a pet, holding them, and throwing them over our shoulder, which that mentions with playing with a baby, throwing them over our shoulder, it gives us that love hormone, the oxytocin. I always add, if you're going to play with a baby, the best part is when you give it back to somebody. Then there's a little dump there too. So, but hugging a loved one, so a 20-second long hug actually releases oxytocin into your body and gives you that sense of well-being and care and safety. So I do, because it is 20 seconds long, I do always recommend You trust the person hugging you, and they have to trust you. And if they pat your back, they're done. You can't keep holding on to them and say 6 more seconds. No, you got to let them go. But a nice 20-second long hug is huge. And then giving and receiving a compliment. It's so funny because when you get a compliment, you know how good we feel. It feels good. You actually get oxytocin dumped into your body. It's a biochemical response to receiving a compliment. But guess what? It feels really good giving one too. You actually get an oxytocin dump by giving a compliment. Do remember, it must be authentic. So walking around just being like, hey, you look nice. Hey, nice hair. And you're just trying to say things so you get that oxytocin doesn't work. Needs to be genuine. So always be authentic. And then serotonin. Oh, it gives us balance. It makes us feel good. It helps us feel like a sense of well being. When you are social, which we'll talk about, don't worry. And then meditation, running, and then walking through nature and being in the sun. So, you know why you love it so much is literally it's a biochemical response. You get serotonin dumped into your body. It's amazing. So, if you are again feeling meh and you don't feel good, get outside and you will literally have a biochemical response to that being outside in nature. It's huge. I know one of my favorite things to reset is walking. I live in a redwood forest, and walking in it, whew, that is a powerful spirit reset for sure for me. I love all the hugs comments, by the way. Yes, seriously, there's a reason why the hugs are so good. So movement for dispatchers. So if you want, at the very end, I have a link to a drive that has all this information on it, as well as all the resources and all the images. So if you really want to read all of those detailed statistics, they're real bummer. So, but you're welcome to it. They're on the drive. But basically it says that sitting is the worst thing we can do for our bodies. Physically, it affects our backs, our hips, our necks, our shoulders. Our leg muscles actually shrink when we sit so long because your body figures, well, we're obviously not stretching them and we don't need them. So we're just going to shrink. It's fine, which creates knee pain and hip pain, all of that stuff. Internally, it's terrible because we're not moving. So, and I mean, what do we do? How long do we all work? 10 hours, 12? I know there's people who work 16 hours, and we are sitting a huge chunk of that. And then for a lot of us, I don't get to cover it in this session, but we have a hypervigilance cycle that when we go home, we are so exhausted from the job that we crash. And so we end up sitting at home too, because we're so worn out. We're so exhausted and apathetic. We hit decision fatigue, so we can't even choose what movement we want to do. So we're just sitting all the time because of the job. So there's a lot of risks that go along with that. So what we say is to try for every 20 minutes of sitting, stand for 8, move for 2. I do always caution people, if you're going to try and move while you're in the control room, be careful about pacing. Pacing actually increases anxiety for everybody else around you. And so we don't want to do that. If you are in a small center and your other person doesn't mind, go to town, pace away. But we have absolutely had issues in our control room where people are getting nervous and agitated because someone's just pacing back and forth and it's creating anxiety. So stepping side to side is helpful as opposed to a back and forth kind of pacing. So just being careful. And then any kind of movement that you can do, just be up, be down, be moving. Now, I know for a lot of people, when it gets busy, I feel like I have to sit down to feel like, that illusion of control, right? If I'm sitting down, I have more control over what's happening on the radio. But the idea is to try and keep alternating it. Even if you're busy, trying to keep alternating it. If anybody's ever read Dr. Gil Martin's Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, incredible book, by the way, applies to any first responder, by the way. But he talks about doing the 22. So this is 22 minutes of movement in your day. I'm not talking about you're not doing anything, you haven't for a while, you better get back on that treadmill and run for 5 miles. No, 22 minutes of movement in your day exponentially increases your health benefits. So get up, garden, housekeeping. Nobody likes to do it, but 22 minutes of movement for house cleaning and you get something done. Cross it off your list, get a dopamine dump. They're all connected here. It can be yoga. It can be exercising. If you already exercise, that's wonderful. Pickleball, for those of you who play any kind of movement, if you do 22 minutes of it a day, your body and your brain and your emotions, all of it are going to thank you for it. Chair yoga is huge. So those images, they're hard to see on a small screen, but again, they're in the resource drive, or you literally Google chair yoga. Anything you can do to stretch and move your body while you're on the job is significant. It's very, very important. And then one of the unfortunate only benefits of COVID was that everything has moved to YouTube. So everything is on YouTube. There's so many options. There's a file called the resource file in my drive at the end. It has links to the YouTube videos. So I've already even found them for you. You don't even have to put out the effort. But there's 3-minute workouts, 5-minute workouts, dance workouts. There are workouts where the instructor starts you on your bed so that you don't hurt your joints. I'm going to make a broad generalization here. Most of us, not all of us, most of us are extroverts, type A. And if we decide we're going to do something, we go hard. So you walk out of here and you're like, I'm going to start exercising again. It's been 4 years, but here I go. 5 miles on the treadmill, an hour in the weight room. What's going to happen? Tomorrow, you are going to hurt so badly and you're going to be like, well, not for me. You won't do it again for 3 or 4 more years. So I just tell everybody, please, if you decide to increase your movement in your life, baby step it, please. Don't go hard. Do it a little bit at a time. Otherwise, you will hurt yourself and then you will give up. And then you'll have to start the whole cycle over again. So just tiny incremental changes. So that's what those YouTube workouts are really helpful for. If you want to start with stretching, there's literally stretching videos on YouTube. You don't have to just do it by yourself. There's beginning yoga. There's advanced yoga if you've moved your way through it. So there's just so many resources out there. Definitely work with them and don't do what we normally do. Try and fight your instinct to go crazy with it. All right. So I always like this quote. So what's worse is that long hours, excessive busyness, and lack of sleep have become a badge of honor for many people these days. Sustained exhaustion is not a badge of honor. It's a mark of stupidity. Now, my thing is we don't choose the sleeping struggle we have. My thing is the competition in here where it's the badge of honor. We have people who walk into a control room and go, oh, I only slept 4 hours last night. And then somebody else will say, oh, you got 4, I only got 2. And then somebody else says, oh, you guys sleep. Oh, that's amazing. We compete who's the most miserable. And it is a constant competition for people, as opposed to, oh, you only got 4 hours of sleep. That sounds exhausting. Let me know if I can help you in some way. So the idea is to stop wearing misery, including exhaustion, as a badge of honor and trying to actually help each other, as opposed to, oh, the day I had yesterday. Oh, you had a bad day. Let me tell you, it becomes a competition. We just have to stop the competition part of it. So for those who are old enough to remember Sesame Street, I know not all of you were, but some of you are. We were taught as kids why sleep is good for us. So we know it's good for our muscles. We know it's good for our immune system. Great. There's very specific things within our job that it's really good for. So number 1 is memory. So if you have trainees and they are not sleeping because they're so stressed, they will not only not remember what you're teaching them, they will start to forget things. This works for everybody. If we're not sleeping, we start to forget things. And it is never that embarrassing memory in high school that we can't seem to get rid of. It's always something new and important that you forget. So it's incredibly important that sleep contributes to our memory. For us specifically in dispatch, first responders in general, REM sleep is where we process what happened during that day. So let's say you're taking a call. It is not what you would consider traumatic by any means. Maybe the ERP is a little bit challenging. And so you're like, whatever, you don't even think about it. And someone's making popcorn in the kitchen at the same time. Okay, great. You go home, you start to sleep. Your sleep is interrupted. As first responders, our sleep patterns are interrupted within 30 days of starting the job. So your sleep is, of course, interrupted. So your REM sleep's interrupted. Your brain was in the middle of processing that call. It's not like when you fall back to sleep, your brain picks up on that memory again and continues processing it. Nope, it picks another one at random and starts processing it that way. So then the next time you smell popcorn, you have a full body physical response. Your brain jumps to that call that you were taking when you smelled popcorn, and you feel it's that feeling where it's a trauma feeling, it's a stress injury feeling, it's a reaction, and you go, I don't understand. That call wasn't that big of a deal. Why am I reacting this way? Your brain didn't get to finish processing it. And because the The process was interrupted. It is now stuck in your brain as a stress or trauma injury. And that's on a normal call. So, much less if you do have a critical incident call, if you have what you would consider a traumatic call. Remember, by the way, the definitions of trauma for each individual person is very different. So, something that you had that you felt was traumatic and you are not able to process through REM sleep, it is going to continually apply that stress injury and trauma injury in your brain. That's why people with PTSD, cumulative PTSD diagnoses, the fact that they can't sleep is actually a significant barrier to them healing in that process because their brain cannot get through processing any of it. So it's significant for us. So what happens when we don't get it? So people will often be like, "Oh, I only need 4 hours of sleep. I've gotten used to it." No, silly. You do need 8 hours still. Your body's just getting used to it, which is different than adapting to it. Night shift is considered a carcinogen, by the way, because our bodies perform so poorly during the daytime when we're trying to sleep that it actually cannot fight things that it's supposed to. I can't see your hands, but I'll say raise your hand if you sleep 6 hours or less regularly. If you do, welcome to the 300% more likely to get diabetes club. That's not including any of the food that you eat or any of your exercise choices. So just by regularly getting 6 hours of sleep or less a night increases our health risks that way. There's so many different reasons why we need sleep. It's real bad if we don't. But being awake for 24 hours is like functioning at a 0.1 blood alcohol level, and you had no fun getting there. So those of us who are awake for 24 hours make critical decisions. Our decision-making speed, our judgment, all of it is affected as though we are over the legal limit. Well, in California, it's 0.08. It's the legal limit. I don't know where it is everywhere else. But you're pretty darn buzzed. And this is when you're making life or death decisions. Same with our people in the field. They're giving medications, they're shooting, they're driving code 3, all at the point of having a 0.1 blood alcohol level cerebrally. It's significant. So my thing for you guys is if you're only going to get 4 hours, let's make it the best 4 we can. If you're going to get 5, great. Let's do what we can with this. There's no forcing it. I know most of us try very hard to get as much sleep as we possibly can. And because of our jobs, because of what our body's doing, because of our stress cycles, all that hypervigilance, everything, there's reasons why it gets interrupted. So we're going to talk about ways to make it as good as possible. So different foods that disrupt your sleep. So if you basically feed yourself a bunch of sugar or spicy food before you try and sleep, you just increased blood flow to your body. It actually increases your blood flow. So you basically told your body, let's go to sleep now that you have more to do. Ooh, sorry, I hit my desk there. And then if you eat really heavy or greasy foods right before you go to sleep, you're literally telling you're giving your body a job to do and then telling it to also go to sleep. So it's hard for day shifters. It's not as applicable because you have dinner and then go to bed a couple hours later. But a lot of night shifters go home and eat right away and then go to bed. So being very careful if you're a night shifter, what you're choosing to eat, the weight, the heaviness of what you're choosing to eat right before you go to sleep. Now, caffeine. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you not to drink it. Don't worry. But caffeine, people think caffeine gives us energy. It doesn't. So we have a hormone in our brain called adenosine. It is what makes us feel sleepy. So 16 hours of being awake fills us up with enough adenosine that 8 hours of sleep is what it takes to wipe it all out. That's where they get the 8 hours of sleep thing. So adenosine makes us feel sleepy. Caffeine is an adenosine inhibitor. So let's say your adenosine's building, and then you drink caffeine and it stops. Caffeine's in your system for 10 to 12 hours. Now, do most of us feel it beyond the first hour? I know, we've built the tolerance. However, it's in there for 10 to 12 hours. It doesn't matter if you feel it or not. At this point, when the caffeine runs out, the adenosine does not start where it left off. It slams to where it should be based on how long you've been awake. That's your caffeine crash. So what do we do when we crash? We drink more caffeine. So I know a lot of people that will slam an energy drink just for their drive home. So what they just did was gave their body 10 to 12 hours worth of caffeine and then are now going to try and go to sleep on top of it. So being very careful about that. People think alcohol is a sedative. It can make you feel sleepy initially, but within an hour, it actually wakes your brain up. Alcohol is actually, it actually wakes you up. That's why it's such a good social drug, is because it's a stimulant after about an hour. So if you are drinking alcohol right before you go to bed and you wake up abruptly for no real reason, it's typically because the alcohol has hit your brain and your brain's like, well, what are we going to go do? What socializing can we do here? So alcohol will do that. Activity, I always mention, it's hard because, again, it applies a lot to night shifters. If you are coming home, getting off shift, exercising very vigorously, and then trying to go to sleep, you basically just dumped endorphins and adrenaline into your body, and then you're going to try and go to sleep. So it's hard because you don't want to not work out, but they recommend yoga or Pilates or something that will ease you into sleeping but still get movement in your body. And then misplaced priorities I put on there. It is very specific to your household, but a lot of times the priorities given to the people who are awake in your house as opposed to the person sleeping, even though it is so imperative that we sleep, especially with the job that we do. So it's whatever individual choices that you can make or adjustments you can make that will actually make it so that the person sleeping gets a higher priority. Sleep hygiene. So true darkness. For those of you who have room darkening curtains that do not darken your room that well, trade them out. Get good ones. Any light tells your brain it's time to wake up. Any light. So if a crack of light is coming through your curtains, if you have an alarm clock, if you have like a wax warmer and it has a little light, if you have a bathroom night light, any of that tells your brain it's time to wake up, because we are geared as humans that we wake up when the sun comes up and we go to sleep when it's dark. I wish it worked that way. Doesn't for our job, right? So anything you could do to cut out light. So I know for us, we put black felt over the top of our curtain rod so that the space between the wall and the curtain rod, no light could come through. And then we put Velcro all along the sides of our curtains to block the light from coming in the side of our curtains. Because both my husband and I are swing shifters, so we are sleeping for part of the day. So night shift, swing shift, anything you can do to make your room pitch black so that your brain doesn't start to wake up. Room temperature. It is now winter, so it feels less applicable. However, in the summer, very, very important. They spent millions of dollars figuring out that 65 degrees is the best temperature for sleeping in. So anything you can do to cool off your room. So I know for where I am, they don't build houses with air conditioning. So we had to get a little AC unit just for the room. And that's literally the only way we can sleep during the summer. If you can't do that, I highly recommend a high velocity fan. So that is not a fan that spits air at you. It is the fan that sounds like a plane is taking off in your room when you turn it on. So you need to move that air. Some people have, you slide it under the bottom sheet and it circulates the air. It's on my resource thing. There's a link to Amazon, but it circulates the air between the mattress and the sheet, cools it off immensely. And then cooling sheets, huge. Because when you move your foot and it's just as warm in that new spot as it was in your old spot, that's gross. Nobody wants that. We want it to be cool when we move our foot. So cooling sheets are huge. The idea is your brain, if you get too hot, it actually gives you nightmares to try and wake you up because it thinks you're about to die. So of overheating. So your brain is giving you nightmare after nightmare. You wake up and you're sweating and you're like, okay, brain, it's like 71 in the room. Calm down. Nobody's dying. But your brain thinks you're about to die. So that's why it tries to wake you up with the nightmares when it's too hot. Sounds, I don't know if everybody knows, but colors have sound. So white noise and brown noise actually tell your brain waves it's time to turn off. So that sound actually makes your brain sleepier. So I know white noise can be very abrasive. For those of you old enough to remember nails on a chalkboard sound and not a whiteboard sound, it can be very abrasive for people. So brown noise is a softer version, but still tells your brain waves it's time to shut off. If you work night shift, highly recommend putting one outside your door and inside the room so it helps block sound. They have actual sound blockers. You'd be shocked at the amount of noise that comes under your door. So you can buy them on Amazon, little door slides. There's styrofoam on either side of it, and then you slide it under your door and it blocks the noise. Anything you can do to keep your space protected is the idea. Device activity, I'm not going to pretend that we're not all on our phones or our iPads before we go to sleep, but please turn it on night mode. Blue light keeps you awake. Blue light is so powerful at keeping you awake. They actually surround narcoleptics with blue light to keep them awake all the time. It stops the natural production of melatonin. So in our brain, we actually have melatonin that goes into our body to make us sleepy. Blue light, which is what we're surrounded with all day long on our shifts, actually keeps us from producing that. So then we feel like we have to put it into our body, and then our body stops producing melatonin because we keep giving it melatonin. So it's a vicious cycle if we're not producing our own. So anything you can do. Always with devices too, be careful what you're choosing to watch before you go to sleep or do. If your game makes you mad, you can't do it before you go to sleep. Adrenaline gets dumped into your body if you're mad. If you're watching the news before you sleep and it makes you mad, can't do it. The adrenaline's going to keep you awake. My husband is terrible at watching shows with cliffhangers, and he's like, oh, one more episode, and then 6 hours goes by and he hasn't slept at all. So be very careful. Pick a mindless, dumb thing or a dumb TV show. And I will tell you, scrolling keeps you awake because it is made for keeping your brain alert. 15-second clips of videos means your brain can't ever adjust or adapt to the sounds and just let it go to sleep to a pattern like it would on a TV show. So scrolling through videos will absolutely keep you awake. So be very, very careful about that. And then house rules, like I said, it's very specific to your individual households. Can you move people from one end of the house to the other if they're awake? Can they be out of the house as much as possible while you're sleeping? Whatever it is, you can do for your own individual selves. So that is sleep hygiene. Please, by all means, if you have questions about any parts of this, dump them into the comments. That's totally fine. Also, something that has been massively helpful for me lately is there's an app called Insight Timer. And I listen to sleep meditations. So I will actually slide it under my pillow so my husband can't hear it, and only I can, because I'm a side sleeper, only I can. And then they will, because if you're paying attention to the meditation, you can't think about what you did that day. You can't think about what's coming tomorrow. You can't think about anything else. You're focusing on what they're saying, and your brain turns off, and I fall asleep. My biggest struggle is staying asleep, but man, the sleep meditations put me to sleep, at least so that I can keep listening to them over and over throughout the night, and they keep putting me back to sleep even if I keep waking up. So huge. I see somebody else loves Insight. Yeah, Insight Timer, great for sleep meditations. They have a lot of sounds on there too. So if you don't want a guided meditation, you can just listen to sounds, that kind of thing. Very, very helpful. I don't know if anybody's parents ever told them garbage in, garbage out. My parents used to tell me that when they justified not letting me watch The Simpsons as a kid, they thought it would make me sassy. Joke's on them. Still turned out to be a sassy redhead, so without The Simpsons. But we're going to talk about hydration, alcohol, and food. Don't worry, none of it's bad, I promise. So water. We're all smart. We all know we're supposed to drink it. What do we drink instead? Literally everything but water. We drink energy drinks, coffee, soda, alcohol, hopefully when we're not at work. Alcohol, all of those are diuretics, which mean that as they leave your body, they're grabbing moisture as they go, and they take it with them. So I had somebody at work tell me, I'm peeing all day, I'm super hydrated, and I know what they drink. And I was like, are you? What color is your pee? Really personal question, and it was not great, by the way. So I have that little chart over there on the slide as well that you see in almost any police academy or fire academy, by the way, to watch for. But it is huge. Just because you're going to the bathroom doesn't mean you're hydrated. If you feel thirsty, you are already dehydrated. We are supposed to be drinking between 45 and 60% of our body weight in ounces. Is there anybody here who actually is diligent? I know some people really are diligent about drinking that much water, that they're drinking 40 to 60% of their body weight in ounces. It's a lot of water we're supposed to be drinking. So my thing is, I am not going to tell you not to drink these things. That's not my job. My job is to just push, push, push. Please drink more water with them. I know in dispatch, we often have the 3 or 4 drinks in front of us. And sometimes we get so busy that we forget to drink. And if we go to drink, we're going to choose the thing that's going to be affected by temperature adjustments. So if we have an ice drink and it melts, or a hot drink and it gets cold, we just tend to go for the thing that tastes better. But we are absolutely killing ourselves on the inside. Good, Amber. Good. I'm glad you're always drinking your water, because some people really are very diligent. The idea is, if you do forget that water bottle picture that I have there, it is very, very helpful. They make water bottles with timers on it, alerts on it. They tell you how much you've had to drink, how long it's been since you've had a drink. They're very, very helpful. I do. So you can have apps on your phone with reminders, but what do we do to notifications constantly on our phone? Just say okay, and we clear them all the time, all the time. So, and I know some people don't like the not taste. Shane, man, you read my mind. They don't like the no taste to the water. So my solution for you there, any water bottles that have the infusers in it, you can make it taste like strawberry, cucumber, mint, whatever it is that you want to. Or again, I'm going to keep aging myself throughout this presentation. That's what I've decided. Those of you who remember when Crystal Light first came out, and we were so grateful to have grainy lemonade flavored water, thank God they've improved it. So they have Mio drops of 1,000 flavors. So you can make your water taste like anything you want, basically. So anything you can do to add more water to your day. Here's the thing. Your brain says, I'm going to do anything I can to survive. If I don't have enough water, I'm going to start stealing it from the organs. So your brain steals water from your internal organs. Your internal organs start to panic and think, oh God, we're going to die. And so people who are chronically dehydrated actually have chronic anxiety, because they are in a constant state of fight or flight. They're in acute stress all the time because their body's constantly thinking it's about to die of dehydration. So your brain's real selfish that way, and it's going to steal water. And then if you actually are able to drink, this is where they get the 5 8-ounce glasses of water a day, you cut your heart attack risk by upwards of 300%. And that's not even eating broccoli or something like kale or whatever, something healthy that cuts it down. If you are an adult who loves a big old glass of milk, awesome, because that is one of the most hydrating drinks you can actually drink. Calcium holds onto moisture as opposed to stripping it from your body as it goes. So if you can drink milk, perfect. If not, that's okay. There are foods that are hydrating as well. So broccoli, strawberries, cucumbers, a lot of celery, a lot of foods actually have a lot of water in them. And if you're eating them, that counts as hydrating yourself as well. Other drinks that count, anything with electrolytes that is not high in sugar, and even all those sparkly waters, those count as long as they're not high in sugar, because the sugar strips you of moisture. So my thing is just push, 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 add more water, add more water, add more water. That's all. Alcohol. Now, before you stop listening, I'm not going to tell you not to drink it. So don't freak out. Don't stop listening. I taught at a fire department, and I said 1 in 3 adults drink alcohol, and they said 2 out of 3 adults lie. So lots of people drink it. My thing is always the focus of our first responder culture, and it's linked to alcohol. So for us, it is so inextricably interlocked with first responder culture. So first of all, 1 in 4 first responders have a substance abuse problem, and alcohol is number 1. So 1 in 4. So that's 25% of your workforce has a substance abuse problem if you are a first responder. That's significant. Why? For us, it's pretty easy to figure out. People do it to numb. People do it to drown out the noises, the voices, the memories, the calls, whatever they've seen, heard, felt, all that. They do it to relax because they have no other way to unwind. They don't have any other coping skills. It is a stress release. A lot of times they feel like, well, I've deserved it. This was a very heavy day, or I deserved it. It was a great day. There's always a justification. And then it is pushed in our culture. Christmas presents at first responder agencies, alcohol. Retirement gifts, alcohol. End of shift parties, beer gardens, bars. Go to somebody's house. What does everybody bring? Alcohol. It is literally constant. So out in San Francisco, when that nightclub burned down, the firefighters spent their days digging through the building, finding bodies. And then the city sponsored an open bar for them after they got off their shift. So they would go to the bar, drink until they passed out, get up, go back to shift, dig through, find the bodies, go drink. So it is so prevalent that a city actually put that on and sponsored that. So it is so linked. It is painful how linked it is. And that is a huge problem. I mean, it's 1 in 4, 25% of your workforce. So now who are we responsible for? Ourselves. Only ourselves. We are not. So I do not recommend leaving here and being like, all right, guys, dry Christmas. You're going to get uninvited. But you are responsible for you. So what are you doing? When are you wanting a drink? Are you wanting it to unwind? Are you wanting it to de-stress because you don't have any other coping mechanisms? Do you want it because you're trying to numb? Do you want it because you just can't think about doing anything else and you want your brain to quiet down? You know that feeling where your brain is screaming and you just want it to be quiet for a little while, and alcohol does that for you? Those are all the red flags that say we need help somewhere else and we need to find some other support and resources. So just paying attention to when you want alcohol. If you want it because it's yummy and you like it and you're socializing and you're having fun, go to town. Just be careful. Just pay attention to your patterns. That's all I'm mentioning is your patterns of behavior. Comfort food. Okay, please throw in the chat your comfort foods. I will anything that you eat that is your comfort food. I love hearing people's foods. Pizza makes it onto a lot of lists. I know for me, warm, cheesy carbs are my thing. So any kind of pasta, macaroni and cheese, love it. Mashed potatoes. Oh, Haribo gummies. See, there's always, I love it. Popcorn. Yeah, sure. That's a comfort food. Everybody always has a different, somebody throws something different in there. I know some people really like ice cream, cookies, candy. I can turn down candy. Baked goods though, no, I'm gonna do it. Eggplant parm. See, there you go. Sour Skittles. I love it. Pizza, desserts, baked goods. Yep. Man, Tony, yeah, we're in trouble. Yes. So why, feel free to keep sharing. I'm gonna keep going, but feel free to keep sharing. Why do we love comfort food? Well, it's delicious, number one. But number two, we are biologically engineered for this. When we are stressed, foods high in fat, carbs, and sugar actually lower our cortisol and they dump dopamine into our body. So that reward chemical I talked about earlier, it dumps it into our body. So our brain starts to say, okay, I'm stressed. And then you're like, I know. I want, let's see what somebody has. Pasta, pizza. Great. Okay, I want pizza. And then you eat it and you're like, whew, feel better. And then the next time you're stressed, your brain's like, pasta. And then you're like, oh, I feel better. So then the next time you're stressed, your brain has now developed a link that doesn't only say, gosh, this sounds good and I like it. It is now telling you, I need this food to feel better. It is no longer a want. Your brain has decided I need it because it lowers my cortisol and it dumps dopamine into my body. I feel good after I eat it. So we create a whole system and develop, we develop an addiction, we feel like we have to have that comfort food. So it is extremely linked in terms of getting into that cycle of the stress cycle and comfort food. It's very, very linked. So again, my thing is not telling you, don't eat comfort food. No, I'm not going to tell you that. I eat like a child. I eat Uncrustables, delicious, by the way. Cereal, love it. Have it at work all the time. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm going to tell you, watch your patterns. I have absolutely walked into a control room and been like, I need cake, fork, cake. And guess what? Thanks to DoorDash or Uber Eats, we can get a cake. So it is the accessibility of the food that is also a problem. So it's watching your patterns. Are you eating these comfort foods every time you are stressed? Then that's a thing. That's a pattern. So start paying attention to that. See, cake. I know. Sorry, I triggered. Got people going. I love these other things. The potato chips, white chocolate, Reese cups, chips and dip, peach rings. Man, dark chocolate mac and cheese. Yeah. Great choices. So then also as dispatchers, situationally, our relationship to food. What do we do for morale boosters, guys? Food. What comes in waves during National Dispatcher Appreciation Week? Food. What do most of our agencies have in there? Snack shacks. So we have food accessible at all times, vending machines. And then again, Uber Eats and DoorDash. Now we can have whatever the hell we want. We used to have to eat the lunch we had or we ate nothing. Now it's like, I brought my lunch, but I don't want it. I want what that person's having. That looks delicious. Ramen. Great. Sounds perfect. Those of you who do not get breaks to eat, how fast are you eating? So fast. And you're chipmunking the hell out of things. But we're eating so fast that our brain doesn't actually register that we're full until we have eaten all of it, and we are way too full at that point. If you have a bag of chips that you bring in for the week, how long does it actually last? I had a new record. Some people will tell me 1 day. Some people will tell me an hour. Yesterday, I had somebody tell me 10 minutes. So she really enjoys those chips. So they're not going to last. So if we have it near us, it's gone. It's accessible. Our brains tell our bodies we're hungry when we're sleepy because it just needs to give us a job to do to stay awake. It knows in our situation that we cannot fall asleep. So what it does instead is say, I'm hungry. So you're not hungry, especially on night shift. You're not hungry, but your brain is telling you that you are because it needs something to do to stay awake. So being very careful. So if you walk away from this and you're like, okay, I'm going to pay attention to my stress cycle and the comfort food, and I'm going to make some food changes. Once again, type A's, I love your drive. But if you go home and you empty your cupboards and then you bring in 5 salads to work and you don't eat salad, what's going to happen to those salads? They're going to go real bad, real fast in that fridge, and you're going to DoorDash. So again, this is one of those incremental changes. So if you want to make changes to your foods, make them small. If you want something crunchy instead of chips, are you really going to eat a bag of carrots because they satisfy you the same way? No. So what's something you can do with chips? Instead of bringing a bag, do those little tiny plastic serving snack size bags or the smaller individual bags. If you want to, I have somebody at work that she would want at midnight, she needed candy real bad at midnight, really bad. So she actually started buying the Jell-O chocolate pudding cups, and that gave her, it was delicious. It was chocolate and way less calories than a candy bar, and she loved it. It was a perfect substitute. So find the substitutions, lower the amount of what you're doing, whatever it is, make small incremental changes so that you can make an overall change, but so that you don't give up. That's the idea is we give up. We're just like, well, that didn't work. I don't feel better and I didn't lose any weight this week because of the 2 salads I ate and the 1 walk I did. Keep going, small incremental changes. Yeah, you guys keep listing it. I love it. Delicious. So I'm not going to go over these in detail, but they are on the resource drive. But these are all healthier versions of foods that dump the same chemicals. And by the way, just so you know, cheese is on every list, so don't worry. You won't have to lose cheese. But dopamine foods, these are all foods that dump dopamine into your body. These are all foods that dump serotonin into your body. And then bananas have tryptophan in them. So they actually, just like turkey does. So eating half a banana before you go to sleep is actually helpful and will help you fall asleep. And then all these foods dump oxytocin into your body. So those are healthier options. Connection. I know we mostly hate people. And I know there's people on here who are like, I don't hate people. That's wonderful. Please, for the love of God, keep that up. Most dispatchers generally hate people. So I'm just going to put that out there. So the idea is the ways that our job keeps us from building connection. Connection is so huge. We saw it during COVID when people didn't have it. It was devastating. I mean, the mental health crises that we had, suicide rates, people got sicker, they died faster. Like without social connection, we fade. We fade as humans. It is a very real thing. So those of us who had to work through COVID, it sucked. But what we got to keep was our routines, and we got to keep interacting with people. You don't have to like the people that you interacted with necessarily, but we got to keep interacting with people. It is something that we have to have as human beings. However, our job affects a lot of our ability to connect. We have crazy shifts, right? A lot of us have mandatory overtime. We have to schedule things out 6 to 8 weeks in advance, and not a lot of people are understanding of that. There are not many friends that you or many people that a friend can call and say, hey, you want to get together for lunch tomorrow? And you can go, sure, because you don't have anything planned for tomorrow. That rarely happens. We don't want to talk to people because that's all we did all day was talk to people. So we don't want to talk to people, especially if you're going to try and talk to us on the phone. No, send me a text, please. I don't want to talk to you on the phone. Sorry, mom. Send me a text. We deal with 5% of the population 100% of the time. So we start to believe that the whole world always lies. You're a victim or you're a predator. You are a sex registrant. You are on probation. Nobody should be driving. Everybody is the problem. Everybody is the worst all the time. And everybody's stupid. Like we just start thinking that's the whole world, as opposed to that's this tiny little fraction of people that we deal with. If you are married to or with a first responder, that feedback cycle where you both are like, oh, people are stupid. I hate them. They're terrible. You guys are both feeding into that. It's very hard to get out of. So it's a huge deal to remember that is 5% of the world. 95% of it doesn't lie, isn't trying to hurt people, isn't on probation, has a valid driver's license. All of these things that we start to think are not real anymore in our job. And for those of you who've been doing this job for a little while, we've learned, keep normal people in your life. Keep people who do not do this job in your life. You need to. And I know that a lot of people think, well, how am I going to translate what I do to them? If they are truly your friend and they are worth your time, they will understand even without understanding exactly what you do. For us in California, when we're interpreting, like 415 means a disturbance. Okay, is it that hard for me to say, oh, they got in a fight instead of saying they got in a 415? No, I can translate that. That's okay. If I tell my friend, well, I was the last person to hear this person breathe, they're not going to, again, your true friends that you trust, they're not going to be like, well, I don't understand. That doesn't sound like it'd be that hard. Okay, you have somebody in your life that will go, oh, damn. Okay, all right, let's have lunch or whatever. So it's the people that you trust, but you got to have people outside this job. Otherwise, we get stuck and entrenched in it, and we're only giving that negative feedback constantly to each other. I'm not saying don't have first responder friends. I'm saying don't only have first responder friends. And then in your life, when you're talking to somebody that's not in your job and you just want them to get to the damn point of their conversation, that doesn't work super well in our personal lives. I have sat there physically feeling anxious while a friend of mine was just telling her normal person story, and I had nowhere to go, nowhere to be, and it was physical anxiety because I needed her to wrap it up. I did not tell her that. I can control my face decently well, but that's something that most of us feel when we're talking to people in our lives. Also, when they present us with a problem, what do? Solve it. I got your answer. Why are you telling me if you didn't want me to solve this? That's because that doesn't go well in our personal lives either. That someone presents an issue and you're like, I got your solution. I have found, just as an idea, that people respond well when I say, are you looking to just vent or do you want some advice? Because that frees me up to just listen to them and not have to be ready. And if they say they want my advice, boom, tag me in. I got your answer. Here we go. We spend our lives solving problems. So of course we're going to try and help the people in our lives. But unless they want that, it breaks connection. It does not help us develop connection. And then be very careful of your energy vampires in your life. When I say that, most people can think of at least one or two people who are energy vampires in your life. They are draining. They only take from you and they do not give back. Most of us do not have the capacity for the people who only take from us. Now, don't just start texting them and being like, Shannon says I can't talk to you anymore. And they're like, who the hell is Shannon? No, don't do that. Choose when you can interact with them. You know this person. You know that sending them one text saying, hey, how are you, is going to elicit 87 texts of the drama in their life and how they are the victim of the world. Choose when you have the capacity to interact with them. I guarantee you that personality, you are not the only person that they can dump it all out on. They have many people in their lives that they choose to dump and dump and dump and dump. So you do this job, you have very limited capacity, you are exhausted when you're done. Choose when to interact with them. You don't have to just because they're in your life. You don't have to just because they're family members. You can make different choices. So again, I'm not saying cut people out. I'm saying be mindful and wise about when you have the capacity. That's you identifying where you're at personally when you have the capacity to deal with them. So trying to maintain all of that with your connections, but be aware of why you struggle with connecting. That's where a lot of people aren't necessarily able to articulate it. So these are some reasons why we struggle. Be aware of them as you go into your personal relationships. So again, I'm not telling you to do or not do. Try to add, try to limit certain things, and that's it. All right, we're coming up on our last stuff here. So somatic connections. This is one of my big things. Somatic just means body, by the way. Knowing and trusting your body is huge. In this job, we are told to ignore it. We are told to ignore it and shove it all down, compartmentalize it, get rid of it. I talk about in terms of I have sessions on literally how to break this habit of compartmentalization that we do constantly, because it is literally killing us from the inside. It is killing us mentally. It is killing us emotionally. It is terrible for us to keep just shoving it and putting it in little boxes, putting it away. I'm not talking about in the moment when you need to focus and you need to push aside the fact that you are like, oh my God, this is scary. This is sad. This is whatever it is. I'm not talking about those moments. Those moments our brain is actually created perfectly for, to compartmentalize and let us focus on what we need to do. I'm talking about after those moments. We tend to just keep shoving things down, putting it aside, pretending we're going to deal with it later. And we never do, by the way. Our body starts to manifest our struggle. So when you are mentally and emotionally struggling, your body's going to manifest that. You see it in ulcers. You see it in chest tightness all the time. You see it in constant anxiety. You see it in pits in your stomach. When you are dreading going back to work the next day so that it affects your weekend because you're so worried about going back to work. When you're sitting in the parking lot and you feel it here or here that you just want to cry. If you have constant chronic headaches, you have unexplained muscle soreness. That is your body telling you something is wrong, and it is time to listen to it. So they did 3 separate studies. They spent millions of dollars. They did first responders who've been diagnosed with PTSD, people who are going through relational endings, whether it was death or divorce, and then people who just wanted to get healthier. 3 very separate studies. They were not all part of the same thing. They found, however, they came to the same 3 conclusions. The 3 things that help people heal the best was mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. The idea is all of those put you back in your body, so they help you pay attention to it. I will explain each of these things. I have a little video of cartoon animals that's going to explain mindfulness, I think, better than I do. So I will play that really quick here. Let me know if you can't hear it.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing. My ears are turning red. I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts. I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've done nothing.
Oops, sorry, I accidentally hit something. That paused it? No, it just stopped. Sorry, everybody. I don't know why it stopped.
If you
Let's
move
try
the
this.
cursor down just a little bit, it should.
It did. I would say it's not popping up the little play thing here. That's okay. I'll take over for the mouse. So Basically, it's the idea, like what he talked about was the space between the stimulus and the response. So if you think about it, sure, it's none of you. But that person who's angry the second the phone rings, they haven't even picked it up yet. They're mad. The person who's angry the second they hear somebody key up on the radio, like they don't even know what they're about to ask for or what's about to happen, and they're pissed already. So it is whatever, there's no space between them, how they are, what's getting them going, and how they react. And the idea of mindfulness is literally knowing, okay, I can feel I'm angry because I'm getting hot. I can feel that my chest is tight. Like, okay, what am I going to do about it? Versus I'm angry, here I go. Or sad too, same thing. It's literally like, oh, I feel really heavy. I feel really sad. Okay, I'm sad. And that's it. You don't even have to do anything with it. The idea of mindfulness is that you are able to just see it or feel it, experience it, know it's there. It puts you back in your body because you have to be able to identify those things. Meditation puts you in your body. Now, it is not like what many people think of. You do not have to sit crisscross applesauce with your eyes closed in the dark and think of nothing, because most of us dispatchers, anybody my age probably can't get out of crisscross applesauce, but also we don't think of nothing. That's not how our brains work. So meditation, it's rethinking about it. It is guided thought. That's it. So there are so many apps, like the Healthy Minds app is great because it has active meditations. So you can be driving, you can be exercising, you can be washing dishes, whatever it is, and it's active meditation. So it's guiding you through, hey, think about where you're feeling tenseness in your body. Hey, take a deep breath. Whatever it is, it puts you back in and has you start paying attention to that. So the meditation can be done with your eyes closed in a dark room, but it can also be done while you're doing something. And then yoga, you aren't able to do these motions or movements without knowing where your body is. So, are you going to fall flat on your face? I've tried it and wasn't paying attention very well. And I did. I fell flat on my face. So you have to be paying attention to your body. So the idea is that you are connected to your body. There are some people with PTSD that literally cannot tell you what their left foot is doing because they have become so disassociated from their body that they don't even know what different parts are feeling or experiencing. They don't feel when they get cut or burned, like that level of disassociation. So the idea is the yoga also puts you back in. There are lots of other things. It just don't have time for them today, but you could do Reiki sessions, saunas, the cold plunges, everything to kind of get you back into your body and able to deal with your central nervous system. There's lots of different options out there. So this is just one of them. And then I love this quote. Sucking is the first step to becoming sort of good at something. In anything you start, you're going to suck. There's not a way around that. This is my favorite training quote. I tell the new people, guess what? You're going to suck at this. And then you know what? You're going to get a little bit better at it. And then a little bit. And then you're going to be kind of good at it. And then you'll get even better. Same thing with making changes in your life. Again, we tend to go hard when we make changes. So don't, because then we give up. We go too hard. We give up. It becomes overwhelming. Pick one thing you want to make a change to. Work on that until it becomes a habit. Then go back. Pick a different thing. Work on it till it becomes a habit. I have the pictures of the puppy because what I like to think of it is you have a new puppy. It pees on the carpet. Do we judge the puppy? No, not at all, because it's a puppy. We're teaching it new things. So we correct the puppy. We guide the puppy. The next time it doesn't pee on the carpet, great, we're excited. And then it does again because it's still a puppy. We don't judge it. So I want you to think of yourselves as puppies peeing on the carpet. We don't judge when we make a mistake because we're learning new things, just like a puppy. So if you decide to make a change and you fail at it, okay, peed on the carpet, clean it up, no judgment, and give yourself some self-compassion and say, okay, I'll do better tomorrow. I will do better later this evening. I will do better whenever. It is baby steps, and it is so that we can actually make these changes. Oh, Jessica, thank you. Yeah, Reiki sessions are fantastic. If anybody ever has questions, you can email me here at the end and I can explain what Reiki is, but it's amazing. It's, again, something that puts you back in your body. So, okay, so final, I'm going to try not to touch anything. time. This is a guided breathing exercise. It's only 3 minutes long, so that should bring us just a couple minutes over. So I think we're doing all right. But if everybody is willing to just sit back in their chairs, close their eyes, and listen to this, and we will finish with this.
Close your eyes and find a comfortable position. During this brief meditation, I'll ask you to pay attention to what's happening inside your body right now. You'll find that you don't have to change anything. Just observe. Direct your attention towards your stream of thoughts. What thoughts are traveling through your mind right now? Can you give them a name? Notice your feelings. What feelings are present in your body in this moment? Maybe sadness, curiosity, anger. If you can, try to give them a name. Try to notice if there are other kinds of sensations present in your body right now, like tingling, tension, vibrations. Just observe them and let them be. Now shift your focus and pay close attention to your breath. Notice how it feels to breathe in and breathe out. Try to give your breath your undivided attention for a few seconds. Lastly, try to expand your focus and take in the whole body. Notice that you're sitting here with your whole body. You become aware of your posture, your facial expression, your feelings and other sensations. Hold them in awareness, just as they are. Notice that you don't have to struggle to change anything. It's okay to let them be just as they are right now. When you feel ready, open your eyes and return to your session.
All right. That is the QR code for the resources that I was talking about, the drive. You can always email me and ask me for it. That's fine too. But thank you very much for coming and listening. I appreciate it, and hopefully you're able to take something away from it. And Ricardo, again, thank you for just giving us a whole week of amazing stuff this week. So thank you. Thank you, Roxy.
I will echo that. You rule.
Thank you.
That was excellent. And that last bit there was just what I needed as well. So thank you for that.
So that central nervous system reset is very nice.
Yeah, that's one of the things when I go out and teach and stuff. And it's the same thing with like the podcast. I always ask people at the very end, like if you could go back in time and talk to yourself at the beginning, what is something that you would tell yourself? What's some advice? And that is one of the things. It was the last about a year and a half that I was in dispatch that I really started to get into yoga, into meditation, into breathing techniques. Oh man, and it helped so much. And there's a lot of changes that I had to make as well. It wasn't as much caffeine intake that I was doing either, but the food was still there. That you hit everything just right on the head there, and I appreciate you so much and everything that you do. And please, everyone who's watching and listening, the best part about this as well is that this will be up. It will immediately go into replay mode. It'll be up for everyone to watch as many times as they want, and the information will be there for people to be able to get a hold of this information, but also get a hold of you as well for any of the training and anything else that you have going on, and even everything in the comments as well ends up staying there. So if there's
Oh,
something
awesome.
that someone put in there or any links or anything like that, that will all be there. And let's see, Ryan over here says, I do mindful meditation every workday before I leave for work. It helps.
It
Yes, it
does. Yeah,
does. Hell
it
yes,
does.
it does. I ended up getting like so good with breathing techniques that when I was taking a hard call, I would be able to be on there and do the breathing
During
as
it.
well at the same time.
Huge. It's huge. It really, really is because you're literally just controlling your nervous system and you're able, the stress and trauma injuries don't land the same because your body's actually regulated while you're doing it. It's huge. Yes, I can't recommend it enough. So I'm so glad you did that too, and you found it while you were still in the job. So that's amazing.
Yeah, like I said, if I could go back, I would tell myself, "Hey, you need to get into this a little sooner."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
everything that we go through gets us or brings us to where we are at today, and I embrace it all. So thank you, my friend, very much for all of it. And for everyone who is here, again, make sure to reach out to Shannon, follow her on social media, email, everything that she does. Amazing, amazing human. And we're going to be going to the next one. And in the next one, I have just a quick message when we go live. And then we will wrap up day 4 already, day 4 of Dare to Be Great. So have a good one, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.
Awesome.